This one-page brief landed in my chat 2 minutes after a 40-page contract hit my folder. It tells me what the document says, the 3 clauses that actually matter, and what I should do next. I didn't read the contract. An OpenAI model did, the kind you can run yourself, weights and all. Today I'm building this whole flow from zero, step by step, so you can copy it for your own documents. Contracts, research papers, long meeting transcripts, whatever eats your afternoons. The trick that makes it work is a model with a giant memory, so you feed it the entire document in one pass instead of slicing it into confused little pieces. No code. Just a clear job, a few connections, and a prompt written like a brief. By the end, you'll have an assistant that reads the long stuff so you don't have to, and a pattern you can point at almost anything that arrives as text. If long documents pile up faster than you can open them, this build is for you. Grab a document you've been avoiding. Step 1. Step 1. Write the job in one sentence before you touch a single tool. Here's mine. Whenever a long document lands in my folder, turn it into a one-page brief, summary, key points, next actions. Input, transformation, output. That's the whole spine of any automation. Notice what I did not say. I didn't name a model, a platform, or a button. Most builds fall apart because someone falls in love with a shiny tool first, then goes hunting for a problem to justify it. That's backwards. The sentence comes first, and the sentence is boring on purpose. Boring means clear. Let me give you a quick story. The first version of this I ever built had no sentence. I just wired things together because they looked cool, and 2 hours later I had a flow that summarized emails I didn't even care about. I'd built the wrong thing beautifully. Don't do that. Try this right now before the next step. Open a note and finish this line. Whenever blank happens, turn blank into blank. If you can't fill those 3 blanks in one breath, your automation isn't ready to be built yet. Nail the sentence, and every step after it gets easier. Step 2, prerequisites. And the big one is which brain does the reading. For this build, I'm using an open model, meaning the weights are public and you're allowed to run it or call it yourself. As an example, Moonshot AI released Kimi K3's open weights on July 27, 2026 under a modified MIT license as a native MXFP for Checkpoint. That's straight from their Hugging Face page, dated the same day. Open matters here for 2 reasons. 1, you're not locked to a single company's button. If a provider changes course, your flow keeps working. 2, for private documents, contracts, client notes, an open model gives you the option to run it somewhere you control. You've got 2 honest paths. Call the model through a hosted API if you want it easy, or self-host if you've got the hardware and the patience. Either works for this exact flow. The logic downstream is identical. What you need before moving on: access to the model one of those 2 ways, and a place to keep your documents. That's it. Don't overbuy hardware chasing a number you read on a forum. Get the smallest setup that answers your sentence from step 1, and move. Step 3. The trigger, the thing that wakes your automation up. You've got 2 flavors. Event triggers fire the instant something happens. A new file appears, an email arrives, a form gets filled. Schedule triggers fire on a clock. Every morning at 7. Every hour, once a week. For a document brief, I like an event trigger. The moment a file lands in a specific folder, the flow starts. Why? Because documents show up whenever they show up, and I want the brief waiting for me, not queued behind a timer. But here's the part nobody tells you. Pick the narrowest trigger you can. Don't fire on every file in your entire drive. Fire on one folder, the one you'll drop long documents into on purpose. Quick example, a friend wired his flow to his whole downloads folder, and every screenshot and meme kicked off the AI. It ran 50 times a day for nothing. One folder fixed it. Try this week. Make a folder literally called to brief, and point the trigger at only that. Now, dropping a document into that folder becomes a deliberate act. You're telling the robot, read this one. Set the trigger, confirm it fires, move on. Step 4. Connect the document source, and scope it down hard. Your automation needs permission to reach into that folder and read files, cloud storage, a drive, wherever your to-brief folder lives. When you connect it, you'll usually get asked how much access to grant. Grant the least that works. If the platform offers read-only, take read-only. This flow never needs to delete or move your files, so don't hand it the keys to do that. Point it at the single folder from step 3, not your whole account. Think of it like giving someone a key to one room instead of the whole house. Here's a small habit that saves real pain. After you connect, run one tiny test that just lists the files it can see and confirm it sees your folder and nothing sensitive it shouldn't. I skipped that once and only later realized my flow could read a folder full of tax documents it had no business touching. Nothing bad happened, but that's luck, not design. The automation should see the documents you meant to feed it, not your entire life. Scope it, verify it, then move to the fun part where the AI actually starts reading. Step 5. Get clean text out of the document before the AI ever sees it. A PDF isn't text, it's a container. Inside might be neat paragraphs, or it might be scanned images of paragraphs, which is a totally different problem. So the first job of processing is extraction. Pull the actual words out. Most platforms have a node or action that reads a document and hands you plain text. Run it, then look at what comes out. This is where naive flows quietly rot. Real documents are messy. Page numbers wedged mid-sentence, headers and footers repeating on every page, confidential stamps, broken line breaks. Feed that raw soup to the model, and your brief gets polluted with junk. So trim. Strip the repeating headers and footers, drop page numbers, collapse the weird spacing. You don't need it perfect. You need it readable. Quick example. One contract I tested had the company's address stamped on all 40 pages, and the AI kept summarizing the address like it mattered. 2 lines of cleanup, and it vanished. Try this. Before you build the AI step, just look at your extracted text with your own eyes. If you can read it comfortably, so can the model. Garbage in, garbage briefed. Step 6. Decide how to feed the document in, and this is where a big memory model changes everything. Every AI model has a context window, the total amount of text it can hold in its head at once. The old way to handle a long document was to chop it into little chunks, summarize each, then stitch the summaries, and things got lost in the seams. But modern open models have enormous windows. For example, Kimi K3 activates only 104 billion of its 2.8 trillion parameters per token and supports a 1 million token context window. That's from Moonshot AI's own Kimi K3 paper, 2026. 1 million tokens is roughly an entire book. So for most documents, you can skip the chopping entirely and hand the model the whole thing in one pass. It reads the contract front to back, seeing how page 2 connects to page 38, the exact kind of link chunking destroys. My rule: if it fits in the window, send it whole. Only chunk when a document is genuinely gigantic. Try this week. Check your model's context window on its official page, then feed it your longest document in one shot and watch it connect the dots across the whole thing. Step 7. The prompt. This is the heart of the whole build, so slow down here. Write it like a brief to a sharp new assistant, not a wish whispered at a genie. Give it a role, a task, a format, and rules. Mine reads roughly: you are my document analyst. Read the document below. Produce a 1-page brief with 3 sections, a 4-sentence summary, 5 key points ranked by importance, and next actions as a short checklist. Ignore boilerplate and legal footers. If something is unclear or missing, say so plainly instead of guessing. Then, and people skip this, paste one example of the exact output shape you want. The model matches examples far better than it follows adjectives. A quick story. My first prompt just said summarize this document. I got a bland paragraph that buried the one clause that actually mattered. I added rank by importance and flag anything that costs money or sets a deadline, and suddenly the brief was useful. Vague prompt, vague brief. Specific brief, specific result. Try this. Write your prompt, then read it back as if you were the assistant receiving it. If you'd have questions, the model has them too. Answer them in the prompt before you run it. Step 8. Configuration. The small dials that decide whether your brief is trustworthy or creative fiction. The main one is temperature. Think of it as how much the model is allowed to improvise. High temperature is great for brainstorming and terrible for a document brief because you do not want an assistant inventing clauses that aren't in the contract. So turn it down low. You want the model boring, literal, and faithful to the text. Next, lock the output format. If you asked for 3 sections and a checklist in Step 7, tell the config to return structured output. Many platforms let you request clean sections or a fixed template, so every brief looks the same and downstream steps can rely on it. One more thing that only open models give you: Because the weights are yours to run, you can keep sensitive documents on infrastructure you control instead of shipping a private contract to someone else's server. That's a config decision as much as a technical one. Decide, per document type, where it's allowed to be processed. Try this. Run the same document twice, once at high temperature and once at low, and read both briefs. You'll never trust a chatty one again. Set it low, lock the format, and move on. Step 9. Delivery. Send the brief where you'll actually see it, not where it's convenient to dump. You built this to save yourself from opening long documents, so don't make yourself open a whole new app to read the summary. Send it to the place you already live in the morning, your chat app, your inbox, your notes tool. Pick one destination, not 3. A brief that's in 4 places is a brief you'll ignore in all 4. Then format it for a 5-second skim. Bold the document's name at the top, so you instantly know what this is about. Summary first, key points as bullets, next actions as a checklist, and the link to the original document at the very bottom for when you want the full thing. Here's the emotional truth of automation. A result you have to hunt for feels like more work, even when it saved you an hour. The delivery step is where a technically perfect flow either becomes a daily habit or a forgotten experiment. Quick example. I first sent my briefs to an email folder I never checked, and I genuinely forgot the automation existed. Moved it to my main chat, and now I read every one. Try this. Send yours to the app already open on your phone. Step 10. Test with real mess, not a tidy sample. It's tempting to test on a clean 5-page memo where everything works and feel like a genius. Don't. Run the flow on the ugliest, longest, weirdest document you actually own, because that's what real life will throw at it. Read the brief critically, side by side with the source. Did it catch the clause that matters? Did it invent anything? Did it choke on the scanned pages? Picture 2 nightmare inputs. A document that's really just a giant image with no extractable text, and a 100-page appendix of tables. Does your flow survive both? Or does it silently produce nonsense? The first run is never fully right, and that is completely normal. Anyone who tells you their automation worked perfectly on attempt 1 is editing the story. A quick example from mine. The very first real test summarized a contract confidently and got the payment date wrong because it pulled the date from an example table. Scary because it looked right. I only caught it because I checked against the source. Try this week. Test on 3 real documents, not 1, and read every brief against the original before you trust it with anything that matters. Step 11. The step almost everyone skips, the failure path. Add a branch that catches errors and messages you. Brief failed on this document today. Because here's the ugly truth about automation. It does not fail loudly. It fails silently. A model call times out, a file is corrupted, a connection expires, and your flow just stops. No alarm, no smoke. You only notice weeks later, when you realize you haven't gotten a brief in ages, and by then you've been quietly reading long documents by hand again like it's the Stone Age. One extra node buys you the truth. Wire an error branch that pings you the moment something breaks, and include the document's name and the actual error message so you're not debugging blind. A quick story. A friend's whole automation died because a service expired his login, and he didn't find out for a month of a working system doing absolutely nothing. An alert would have caught it on day 1. Try this. Unplug something on purpose, rename the folder, break the connection, and confirm your failure branch actually shouts. An automation you can't trust to tell you it's broken isn't saving you time. It's just hiding the work from you. Step 12. Ship it, let it run, and improve 1 thing a week. Done beats perfect. A flow that briefs your documents at 80% today is worth more than the flawless version you'll finish never. So turn it on. Then, 1 small upgrade per week. A sharper ranking rule, a cleaner format, a new document type, a tweak to the prompt when a brief disappoints you. 2 habits keep it healthy. First, watch usage. Whatever path you chose, hosted API or self-hosted, there's a meter or a resource cost, and you should glance at it after the first week. I won't quote prices or limits here, because those change constantly, and the only number that counts is the one on the official page the day you read it. If usage looks heavy, feed the model cleaner, shorter text, or brief fewer documents. Second, keep a tiny changelog, 1 line per tweak, so future you knows why the flow looks the way it does. My version today is unrecognizable from version 1, and version 1 still saved me an afternoon on its first day. Try this week. Build steps 1 through 6. That's the entire foundation: trigger, source, clean text, big window read. Everything after that is polish. That's the whole build, start to finish: a narrow trigger, a scoped folder, clean extracted text, one big context read instead of confused little chunks, a prompt written like a brief, boring, faithful config, delivery where you already look, and an alarm for when it breaks. Pointed at contracts, research papers, meeting transcripts, terms of service, anything long that arrives as text and steals your afternoon. And the real prize isn't this one flow, it's the pattern. Trigger, connect, clean, prompt, deliver, alert. You just learned how to hand any reading chore to a machine that reads the whole thing at once and hands you back only what matters. If you want more builds like this, real, evergreen, explained without the hype, subscribe, because that's the entire point of this channel. And do me a favor in the comments, tell me the first long document you'd hand to a robot tomorrow. A contract? A textbook? A pile of meeting notes you've been dreading? Tell me what it is, and if enough of you name the same thing, I'll build a specialized version of this flow for exactly that, step by step, in a future video. See you in the next build.